I hope you guys don't mind. I brought an extra guest with me, potentially.
Your cat?
No, my parrot. Pretty.
That's fine.
Honestly, I've heard it so much.
You just can't tune it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, just so you know, he's in here with me. He's starting to respond to me when I whistle at him. That makes me so fucking happy.
Aww. Jacob Bourne.
Matt Riegler.
Do you know what today is?
Friday.
You know what else day it is?
The 24th.
It's the day we have our very first guest, and his name is Tony Pomposelli. What?
What up?
Guys, I'm flattered to be the first guest on you guys' show. Very, very much excited to be on there. I know we tried to do this last week, but we fought the internet more than we talked puck. Hopefully that's a little different this week.
Yeah, it should be.
Tony, I'm so excited I still want to sing. Tony, I have a question for you.
We're gonna do.
I might have an answer.
Tony, what were your hockey beginnings?
Well, my hockey beginnings are a little bit different than you guys. Unlike you two, I've actually never really played hockey as a youth. I've never been the most in-shape person really at any point in my life, nor was I really the most athletically inclined until really about the 6th grade or so. My family has been a fan of hockey for quite some time. When I was little, my parents were big fans of the Kings. My dad's actually somewhere in this house. He has a rookie card of Luke Robitaille that is signed by the lucky one himself.
Wow.
I will attempt to see if I can find that for you guys and send you a picture of it so you guys can feature it on your blog. I can't make any promises, though, but I will attempt to get it out.
Right.
They migrated to being fans of the Ducks a little later on because, well, you know, the truth be told, I honestly am not sure why. Don't know if it was because of the hip thing to do, if it was convenience that did it because the team was closer, but whatever the case, they kind of became Ducks fans. And I never really got into the sport until I was, I think, 11, I want to say. I was 11 or 12 when I went to my first game. It was a Ducks-Bruins game that ended in a 2-2 tie, so it was back when ties were actually still a thing. And I actually took my best friend with me, Taylor, and he kind of taught me one of the lessons that I kind of hold about hockey. And because he wore a Dallas Stars jersey to a Ducks-Bruins game, which kind of seems a little bit oddball. And that was one of the things I told him when I pulled up. It's like, you're not wearing the right team. And he said, it doesn't matter about the team, it's about the game. And so for the people that kind of give, crap to the people who wear other teams' jerseys to other games, like, I don't give them that because I have that added appreciation for it because it is hockey, like my friend Taylor taught me. Now, I will say, though, that I will give you endless amount of just hardship if you are wearing to my hockey game a jersey of a sport with a team connection that has nothing to do with anything. And this actually happened. I actually witnessed this one. I went to a Kings Blackhawks game a few years back, and I saw a guy wearing an Indiana Pacers jersey at Staples Center.
That's so fucking stupid.
It just doesn't make sense.
It's like, what? That doesn't even make sense. The Pacers weren't even in town for like another week.
But,
and I was like, what?
I think, though, that's a little interesting because I just found this photo that I'm posting in our conversation and we'll put up on the blog. It's a guy he's wearing a Quebec Nordiques jersey at a Boston Celtics game. And he's holding up a sign that says, "Hey NHL, look what you made me do during the lockout." I think that's the only time it's socially acceptable to wear another sports jersey at a game. Either that
Nordiques jersey at a Boston Celtics game.
Yeah.
Were they playing the Toronto Raptors that night?
No, it looks like the Atlanta Hawks, just based on the color scheme.
Maybe.
I'm not sure.
I have no idea.
But whatever the case, at that point, it kind of transcends standard hockey jersey and becomes protest jersey.
Yeah.
Exactly. But I think that's the only acceptable time, or if let's say like a game is in St. Louis and somebody wears like a Cardinals jersey or a Rams jersey.
I'm not going to give them over that. That's
exactly.
Fine. Local team is the exception to the rule. And even on a very slim, if you come to a Kings Blackhawks games and you're wearing a Bulls jersey and they're in town, I don't want to, but I'll give you a very slim pass.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, it
that's what
supports
you call
the local team.
Really pushing it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was like my first game. A few months later, I went to an Ice Dogs Vipers game. I think they were playing the Vipers. I don't know. It doesn't matter. It's an Ice Dogs game. It was awesome. I just kind of got hooked from there. The year after that, I was really, really cemented in, as that was when the Ducks made their 0-3 run. Being young, bitter, and stupid, my distaste for Paul Kariya emerged. Still very, very potent to this day. High school, the Ducks had their cup win in my junior year. And in senior year, actually, I could have been the assistant coach or better of our high school hockey team had the school not been so apprehensive about adding a hockey team to active clubs. College, I kind of started the whole fancy hockey thing with some guys I met at my college radio station that I worked at, and eventually my boss that I ended up working for the next 3 years. And then back last season was my first season with the IceHL. This year is my second with the league. I'm also the host of the IceHL podcast, and we just put out our most recent episode a couple of days ago, and that was episode number 18.
Where can we find that glorious episode?
You can find that episode as well as all previous episodes and recaps of bi-weekly action from the IceHL by heading over to aesthetics.info/IceHL. And from there you can also find links to the league offices as well.
Are you saying that our friendship is powered by aesthetics.info?
You know, you could say that this friendship is brought to you by aesthetics.info. Aesthetics.
All right, buddy. I can't let the Paul Kariya bit go.
Sure.
I don't understand it.
Okay.
Well, maybe I do, but lay it on me. Or else.
Okay. So, here's my perspective on the whole thing. When you latch onto a team, you find that player that you like. And for me at the time, it was Paul Kariya. It was hard not to like him. He was the stud of the team. However, after he fails to win a Stanley Cup, he basically turns around, curses out the franchise, and then takes his talents elsewhere. And it's like, you were the captain of our team, and you just openly betrayed all of us.
So it's kind of like the LeBron James sort of idea, only it happened back in 2003 with the Ducks.
It happened back in 2003, and it was like when you have one of the first players that you've like, yeah, I like this guy, and it's like he's gone, and it's like, what? He traitor, he turncoated on us. I was so mad about that, and that's like something that it's going to take a long time for me to ever get over it. I mean, I will give it, the man probably should have his number retired in Anaheim. I mean, after all, he was one of the first. He has history with the Ducks. That being said, he may have the history, but he doesn't have the love from me.
I think he will have his jersey retired just because he was like the really first big superstar to come out of Anaheim. Sure. And he also, I mean, a lot of the thing that I think people remember the most about Paul Kariya's time in Anaheim is in Game 7 when he gets rocked by Scott Stevens and then manages to come back and score the game-tying or game-winning goal. I can't remember which one it is.
It's not Game 7, because if it was the game-winning goal, we would have a cup.
Well, right. I mean, that's what
Game 6, because it happened on Anaheim ice.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if it wasn't Game 6, it was at least on Anaheim ice that it happened. He got knocked out. He came back and he scored the game-winning goal in that game.
Yeah,
and
I think it was Game 6.
Of course, in Anaheim lore, that's fantastic. But as a Paul Kariya hater, Scott Stevens, you're awesome.
Right, exactly.
I didn't think that at the time, but I do now.
You know, I guess none of that really makes sense to me, considering two things. One, Solani went and turned coattail as well. They both went and signed with Colorado. And Solani has come back and been a saint. I'm reading here, and cut me some slack. This is Wikipedia, because I didn't realize any of this was going on.
Sure.
From your perspective, is that Brian Murray, the GM of the Mighty Ducks at the time, went on record saying, quote, "We understand he is an important player to the franchise, speaking of Kariya, but when you are trying to build a team, it's hard to have one player at $10 million, which is what Kariya was requiring if they were to qualify him an offer, when your payroll is in the mid to low $40 million range." It was reported that they were trying to negotiate a longer term deal at a lower salary, but ultimately Solani and Kariya decided to take their talents together to Colorado, which at the time, unlike today, made a whole lot of sense. Colorado was a powerhouse and they were spending money, and when you're Paul Kariya, the captain of the Mighty Ducks, and you are getting a disproportionate amount of the flack for the team's, I don't even want to say lack of success. I mean, they just lost in the finals to the Devils. And he had come back from all the injuries that he had come back with, including a mind-blowing concussion. I guess I just don't see, I don't see the justification for it.
Okay, can I offer one little bit of additional information there?
Of course.
At the time that I was a fan of the Ducks, when I first became a fan of the Ducks, Solani was not wearing a Ducks jersey. Those were those years that he was with San Jose. So I never knew Solani as a Duck until his second stint with the team.
Really? Well, I believe
you. He played for the Sharks for 2001, and that was the trade that sent him there. He played 01-02 and 02-03. 03-04, he went to Colorado. So at the time, Solani was a Shark.
Oh.
So he was not a Duck.
Okay, well, I misremembered my timeline. I thought he went from the Jets to the Ducks, and then together with Kariya, he went to the Avs, and then he spent the time in the Ducks. Sure.
Yeah, I believe it was that Solani's contract expired after the 02-03 season, so about the same time Kariya's did. But at the time that I became a fan of hockey as a whole, Solani was a Shark when I started.
Okay, and I misremembered the timeline. So let's get back to Kariya.
Sure.
So I can understand at the time you feeling a certain way. 2003 didn't have a whole lot of internet going on, and information wasn't as easy to obtain back then, especially as it is now. So I understand at the time feeling angst, but why in retrospect do you still feel angst?
It was just such a huge, gaping, fresh wound as a hockey fan, and he basically just poured an entire salt factory in with it.
Wait. It's the emotional connection that sticks with you.
Yeah, the emotional, that was the first player that I had, emotionally connected with as a hockey fan, and for him to leave was devastating. And, as a blind loyalist at the time, I could never blame the team for it.
Okay. Well, there it is.
And, that's something that I haven't grown out of. Some people may view that as a fault, but honestly, Kariya then kind of, after Anaheim, to me, he came across as a very punkish little player.
I think he was scared of getting rocked again.
Yeah. And he didn't want limelight again. I mean, look at where he signed. He signed in Nashville and St. Louis. After Colorado.
Right.
Yeah.
He signed with Nashville during what has been, so far in their history, their golden years, when they were a perennial 100-point in the standings team. And then he signed with St. Louis. These are two
small market teams.
I was trying to say something else, but yeah, will you just go with that?
Yeah, small market teams.
It makes sense what Kariya was trying to do. He didn't want to go through the same BS that he went through in Anaheim, being the man, being the captain, and receiving that much flack. He probably was a bit emotionally scarred with the amount of times he got rocked. And make no mistake, he got rocked several times. And so he signs with Nashville, what has so far been their golden years, perennial 100-point, top of the division team. He signs with St. Louis, another small market team. He went for a place that he could fit in, not be the man, just be a scorer, without all the excess amount of pressure. He could have gotten lots more money if he had gone to a big market team from LA to New York, but he chose not to. So I think Kariya's flack, from your point of view, Tony, is understandable for at the time when you were going through it, but in retrospect, and, retrospect is a funny thing, I think that he's not as deserving of flack as much as he is deserving of sympathy.
I don't even know if it's sympathy. I think that when he went to Colorado, he wanted to hop on that 2001-2 Colorado team where they just blew everybody away. And so I think he wanted to be, again, kind of like you said, in that system where he could just be a goal scorer and not necessarily be the captain, because they had Sakic and Forsberg and Rob Blake and Patrick Waugh. They had all the big name guys, and then he was just another one that was added. And I think it's interesting that he goes over to Nashville and he signs there again when Peter Forsberg is with the team right out of the lockout. And I'm pretty sure Kariya took a pay cut also to do that, just based off of what happened after the lockout. And then, especially in St. Louis, he was that. In St. Louis, he came at a very interesting time because that's when we had big name players who were past their prime. That's when we had Tkachuk and we had Andy McDonald and we had Paul Kariya. And it was great because those are big names that if you watched hockey in the late 90s, early 2000s, you knew their names and you knew who they were.
And every single one of them brings back so much nostalgia too, because all those were ex-Ducks. Tkachuk wasn't he?
No, he was Winnipeg, Phoenix, St. Louis, a little mini stint in
Oh shoot,
Atlanta.
Know what, you're right. I got Tkachuk mixed up with Ruchin for some very strange reason.
Yeah, it happens. Tkachuk, Ruchin, nobody could spell their names anyway.
Exactly. But again, I think I agree with Matt in the sense that he didn't want to be the number one guy that everybody looked to when you're down by one with 5 minutes left in the game to put the team on his back and score the game tying or game winning goal. I think he wanted to be the guy that could chip in about 30 goals a season and kind of just be like, oh yeah, well there's this guy, and then there's Paul Kariya who does his share as well.
Tony, what do you think?
It's one of those things that I guess I kind of have to look at and go, do I really want to get over this? And the experienced hockey fan that I've become says, yeah, dude, let it go. But the young, feisty inner me is just no, dude, he backstabbed your team and went to somewhere else because he thought they had a better chance, even though they went all the way to the finals.
I get that too. I really get that because I'm the same way with the Detroit Red Wings as a team as a whole. It's because every year it seemed like we'd face them in the playoffs, and every year we'd get knocked out in the mid to late 90s. And so, as much as I should say, oh yeah, they're a great hockey team and they can put up numbers and they're really good, just part of me, especially the 5-year-old kid, just says, no, you hate them. You hate the Red Wings for what they've done. So I get that.
And see, that was the thing. At the time, I wasn't a big fan of the Avalanche.
Yeah, exactly.
So you add that to it, and it's just no.
Especially because they were in that Pacific Division before the Pacific Division actually came whole, right?
I believe at the time that I started, there were the 6 divisions.
Okay. Oh yeah, so they might have been in the Northwest by that point.
So let me throw a monkey wrench into all this.
Right.
This is from the same Wikipedia page, and again, I apologize for not having a better source, but
it's a quick source. It doesn't matter.
On July 3rd, 2003, the Avalanche announced the signing of Kariya and Solani to 1-year contracts. In order for the team to afford both players, Kariya took an $8.8 million pay cut from his $10 million salary with Anaheim the previous year, marking the highest decrease in compensation for a player in NHL history. At $1.2 million, his salary was below the NHL average, ensuring that he would have the freedom of unrestricted free agency at the end of the season. Solani, meanwhile, signed for $5.8 million. And the last bit, just for background, their deals were partially facilitated by goaltender Patrick Waugh's retirement, which freed up $8.5 million.
Wow, I had no idea Kariya dropped $8 million to sign with the Avs for just a year.
Yeah, I didn't know that
nuts. Either. That's nuts. And then to think that the lockout happens and he gets then they bring in the cap, so then everybody's pay hit gets small. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now, Tony, if you want to be bitter after knowing that, I'm going to back you.
Yeah.
It's a move that, if you want to look at it in retrospect, to take an $8.8 million with a team that you think has a better shot at a cup, does that not scream desperation?
Wow. That's ridiculous.
All right, boys, just for our last bit on Paul Kariya, I am giving you, and I'll put this up on the blog as well, I am giving you what CapGeek does have of Kariya's contracts. And he only has it for the last 5 seasons of his career, so it looks like just Nashville and St. Louis.
I gotcha. How much be making Nashville?
Well, they have the NHL salaries as well, the seasons and how much he was making. Historical salaries, mind you.
Yeah.
He was still pulling between $4.5 and $6 million for the AHL, NHL salaries. They have the 2 ways.
Yeah.
But, yeah, 1999 through 2003, $10 million, and then jumping down to that 1.2.
Oh, look at that. I had scrolled right past it. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, he had a 14-year NHL career. That's pretty good year. I mean, he was a great player, and I loved watching him play. And I remember he was in NHL 2004. He was always on my team on that Dynasty League just because he was good, very good. And so
Paul Kariya.
Exactly. I loved Paul Kariya, especially his cameo in D3 Mighty Ducks. Loved it.
There's something that we've all shared that I would like to know how you spent, Tony.
Sure.
How did you spend the victory that was the Ducks Cup?
Oh man. Okay, well, that's...
First of all, I want to say all of us have not experienced that. I just want to throw that out there.
No, you have. You're a Cardinals and Rams fan.
Oh, okay, so championship more so than Stanley Cup.
Yeah, I was trying to shorten my words.
Gotcha.
Okay, so it was pretty legit just because for the first time it seemed as though people cared about hockey.
Mm-hmm.
Now, granted, I know that was a large bit of bandwagoning, but at the time I was so happy I didn't care until everybody started wearing Lakers jerseys again. Then I got mean and bitter because I'm like, you're just supporting the team that's doing well, not the team that already won. And they're like, oh, shut up. And it's like, you know what? I don't care because I got to go to the rally at Honda Center. I saw the team bus pull up. I caught a dozen rally towels, including 4 of them using my head.
Nice.
Can you please send us a picture of one later?
Sure, yeah, I could probably find one of those pretty easily. I had the Stanley Cup come in via helicopter. I heard Pennywise play Bro Hymn, the 7.5-minute rendition.
Woo!
Wow.
And sung along with it. It was absolutely unbelievable. It was so sick. And what made it just so special as well, like, that season had a bunch of different Ducks connections with it as well, because I got somewhere in my Ducks fan gear, what have you. I do have a towel from the Stanley Cup Finals. I do have one of those because one of my classmates, their brother worked at the Honda Center, well, the now Honda Center, I should say. And my math teacher at the time, actually still is, scoreboard operator at Honda Center. So I was able to get a game puck from him.
So cool!
That is awesome.
So like, I had the hookups that season because let's put it this way, I was literally friends with exactly the right people at exactly the right time.
Oh, please send us a picture of all this awesome.
I will see if I can find it. It's been packed up, so I gotta dig it out.
Alright.
No.
But what's also funny too is as much as I'm a Ducks fan, I actually have 4 limited edition Kings bobbleheads in my room as well. Ryan Smith, Wayne Simmons, Anze Kopitar, and Luke Robitaille.
Well, I think that's a perfect segue into the Stadium Series going on at Dodger Stadium. How about you?
Yes, that is indeed tomorrow night.
And how will you be spending your Stadium Series evening?
I will be DMing a Dungeons & Dragons campaign.
What?
You're not going to be watching it?
Okay, here's the thing. I have family friends coming over that night. So we only have one TV in our house that has a cable connection, so it's like, not gonna happen. But we all know what's gonna happen anyways. Ducks gonna smoke them, like they did last night.
All right.
I will find a way to get you a copy of this game.
Yeah. But yeah, the Stadium Series is such an interesting thing because I love the idea behind it, but I don't know how keen I am on the execution of it, honestly. I mean, do we really need this many outdoor games per year?
No.
And do we really need the same teams playing in them, too? I mean,
no.
Honestly, and I don't like doing this, but I'm taking shots at the Rangers here. They have 2 outdoor games this season, and they've been in the Winter Classics. They get 3 outdoor games before how many teams in the NHL get a shot at one? I don't like that.
Well, we didn't get the extra games because of the Rangers. We got the extra games because of the Islanders and the Devils. They are all on the MSG television network.
Okay.
Yeah. So, the Winter Classic being a standalone event with 24/7 and HBO, I think is seen differently than the Stadium Series, which is seen as more of a communal event. Which obviously doesn't explain Pittsburgh and Chicago, but it does explain Orange County, and it does explain Manhattan, Nassau, and whichever county the Devils play in. New Jersey.
I don't know. It's just, my whole take on the Stadium Series, and I don't know how legitimate this is or not, but a couple of friends have told me that the Stadium Series is like a one-time deal, like the NHL's version of apologizing for the first half of the lockout last season.
That's not what I've heard.
But see, that's what I've not heard either. I've heard that they've done the Stadium Series. They want to
expand this.
Exactly. And honestly, there's only one reason why they're doing this. And the answer is green. Money. That's it. That's the only reason why they're doing all these outdoor games. And I think it takes away from the Winter Classic, and I really, 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 really don't like the idea of it.
I would have to agree with it. The only other outdoor game that I am okay with, I'm cool with Heritage. Okay, I'm cool with Heritage.
Yes.
I'm cool with that.
I'm cool with it too.
I can live with that. That's usually a fun game because usually they'll get the Canadian teams in there with the rich history, and they always bring out really cool stuff for that. Like, for instance, the Nucks uniforms this year. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All
exactly.
of this. Like, I'm cool with that because it brings out some of that legacy, and it pays homage to the Canadian aspect of the sport, the origins of it. Who are the pioneers of the game.
Right.
I'm cool with that, but the Stadium Series I have a problem with. Outside of just not only the execution of the game for the fact that it's for money, also those jerseys. Oh, God.
Well, what about the Islanders might be taking that crest with them into 2015?
I didn't think of it that way.
Yeah, there have been talks about that. I've heard that. Now, I honestly don't have as major of a problem with that if it stays as a third crest. If they turn into their primary, I'm gonna be upset.
Oh yeah, I'd be super pissed.
I just don't like any of the Winter Classic jerseys. The
Winter Classic or the Stadium Series?
Yeah, thank you for correcting me. I don't really like any of the Winter Classic. I said it again. The Stadium Series jerseys, with the exception of the Ducks. And I
hate the Ducks. I hate the Ducks.
Worst one.
But I will qualify in saying that I've just been really curious to see them do a orange-based jersey, and I'm just happy that I got to see it. Okay. But overall, I don't really like any of the jerseys, and quite honestly, I'm pretty lukewarm on several of the Winter Classic jerseys we've already seen.
See, it's funny that you like the Ducks jerseys for the fact that they go orange, yet I maintain that, honestly, the New York Rangers is one of the better Stadium Series jerseys that's made.
Nope.
And here's the thing. Nope. Here's the funny thing about this. I honestly think it does have to do with the color schemes that are utilized in these jerseys. And the reason I say that is because I look at the Kings jersey, and I'm like, oh, man, theirs is totally better than ours. I look at the Rangers and the Blackhawks, who I think have the 2 best jerseys of the Stadium Series. The Penguins, not too bad. The Devils, haven't really seen, but we know what it's going to look like. It's going to be the red and green traditional color scheme. Right. And then you look at the Ducks, and it's like, we are going to look like traffic cones out on the ice. And the problem is that the orange, it doesn't have enough separation in my eyes between the orange, the black, and the gold in the sleeve striping. There isn't enough of a discernment for that. And the problem is it doesn't look good from the distance. It doesn't look good up close. Whoever thought the half striping jersey sleeves is honestly moronic. It's like, in what universe does this make sense?
It really doesn't. I think I agree with you, Tony, in that I think that the Blackhawks have a great jersey just because, I mean, we've seen it before. The only difference is the half stripes on the elbows instead of the full stripes.
The full stripes. Yeah.
And then, but the New York jerseys, I like them a lot, but I don't understand why they didn't go to Lady Liberty on the front.
Yes!
Because think of it.
So big.
The chrome look with the Lady Liberty
would
have been so sick. That would have knocked it out of Yankee Stadium by far.
If they would have done Lady Liberty, I would have no problem saying that that's the best one.
Oh
if they would have done Lady Liberty, I would have maybe thought about buying a jersey.
And the white one was the best one from back in the day.
Exactly. The white one looked so much
better. Oh my gosh.
Look, so I think I know what happened with the Rangers jersey in particular. So if you consider what the Islanders did in particular, they are just going with a alternate version of the jerseys that they already have, their logo and crest, right? The Rangers have already done 2 crest Winter Classic jerseys, or one Winter Classic jersey and one specialty third jersey. Oh no, wait, I'm wrong. That says New York across the chest too. Hey, what I was going to say is that they've done their last 2 jerseys have been crested, and so they're going for a word mark this time, but I'm wrong. And you know what? I just don't know what the fuck that they were thinking. And whatever they were fucking thinking, it was the wrong thing to fucking think because it's fucking awful.
It's just, what makes it's these jerseys, I know, they wanted their template, they got their template. I don't want to see the template again.
I don't want it either. I don't know. I have a hard time buying into the Stadium Series when it's all about money and it's all about the gimmicks. No offense to you, Tony, but kind of hope the California one fails just so that way they don't try to do it again.
I am pretty sure that I don't like downing the teams, so to speak. I don't know if it's going to go well just because after the holidays there was $100 drop in ticket prices.
Yeah, and the whole thing,
not to mention, we're going to be I honestly fear that we're going to be the laughingstock of the league, not because of the game, because this is between 2 very high-quality teams in the Pacific Division, and it is between 2 of the best teams in the NHL. That's not the problem. The problem is that there is a sand volleyball court in the same place as there is a hockey rink.
Yeah, and not only that, this is going to count for 2 points, and the ice has got to be, it's got to be super shitty out there. Because it is just not fair to the players to have to put them through that and say...
Is it any more or less fair than what the Wings and Leafs just did?
But it's different. Snow is different than puddles of ice, puddles of water sitting in the middle of the rink for the face-off dot.
To be fair, I have actually seen pictures of the ice. Color me incredibly surprised by how well it's being maintained.
What color would that even be?
Blue.
Probably a blue. Yeah, probably the blue line. I'm really, really surprised by how well the ice is actually being maintained out at Dodger Stadium. I'm really impressed by it. But like I said, I find it so hard to take a game like this seriously when you have a sand volleyball court.
Yeah.
It's why? People, this is not... God. I mean, yes, the novelty is cool. Going to go see a hockey game in 75-degree weather. Pretty cool. Not gonna lie. That's pretty awesome. That's about where the awesome ends with this game.
Right. Basically what we're talking about is the cognitive dissonance.
Yeah.
It's a really cool idea. It would be really cool to experience, but this on a consistent level, it just rings as incongruous.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's just there's so many. It's just a cacophony of just really unaligned ideas. And
we're really pulling out the SAT words.
You know it. It's just there's just nothing about it that meshes together. And you know what? Maybe in execution, maybe they prove us all wrong. But it's going to take a lot, I think, to prove a lot of the cynics wrong about this.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, not to mention that every player on the ice is probably going to lose about 10 pounds when they're done just because they sweat out all their water weight they got left.
Well, then again, you have no idea. I mean, the biggest thing that they keep touting about these jerseys is how lightweight and breathable and flexible they are. Maybe these jerseys prevent that from happening.
Yeah, but...
Or maybe they just drip all over the ice.
Lightweight and breathable is different than 85-degree weather.
Well, it'll be cooler at nighttime, but that's only saying that at face-off it's only going to be about, maybe 70.
Yeah, is it like a 3 p.m. game or is it like 7?
No, it's a nighttime game.
Oh, okay. I thought it was supposed to be like a mid-afternoon to late.
No. Okay. We are not a matinee game. We could never pull off a matinee game.
Okay, that makes a little bit more sense.
Yeah, matinee would not work. Like, at all.
So T-minus how much longer until you see the flip-flop skate?
Good question. Where is it in Florida?
I was going to say no, because somebody's going to skate over somebody else's foot, and then there's just going to be a toe laying in the middle of the ice.
Well, we've seen guys survive cuts to the jugular, so, a toe, as long as it's not the big one.
And we have come up with perhaps one of the worst reasons and the most obvious reason that this is coming up. Ladies and gentlemen, the money grab has been confirmed as there is going to be NHL Hockey Bird.
What the hell is it? Oh, yeah, I saw that.
No. This is, I'm one half of this podcast, and we are not acknowledging this thing any further. Nope.
The bird looks like Miroslav's Satan.
Nope.
That's all I'm going to say.
No. Nope, not doing it. Nope.
Worst thing since the Guardians project.
That we're keeping.
I like the Guardian project.
That we're definitely keeping. Why? Why did you like it?
To be fair, the blue was the cool one. He was basically a dark ripoff of Hades who played a saxophone. I got the Rebel with a trust fund and a Batman ripoff. Oh wait, no, that was the Canuck that was the Batman ripoff.
It was just, I don't know. I mean, I think that came out when? 2009?
When was Raleigh the host of the All-Star Game? Because that was the last we ever heard of it.
I think it was 2008 then. Yeah, that's freshman year. Yeah, that was back with do you remember that there used to be a show on Sci-Fi? And it was like, who wants to be a superhero? Or something like that. And me and my brother were watching one season of it right as it came out. So it kind of just hit a sweet spot for me. And I thought it was kind of a cool idea. And plus I like Stan Lee, so that was kind of cool. But yeah, I mean, it's another one of those novelty things that I was like, oh hey, this is kind of cool. And then you just kind of throw it away 3 months after the fact.
Sure. Random offset, just the last thing I'm going to say about the Guardian project. You remember the Guardians, I'm guessing, fairly well, Jacob?
Yeah, at least a little bit. I remember.
Okay. Do you find it a little uncanny that the Thrasher could have very easily been turned into the Jet based on his character design?
Oh, wait, I want to see. I'm going to have to look this up 1 second. The Thrasher Guardian project.
Tell me that doesn't turn into the Jet so easy.
Thrasher Guardian.
Wait, they came out in 2011.
Oh my gosh, it's even worse than I thought.
Yeah, never mind. Yes, oh my god, that's so funny.
Same color scheme and everything.
Literally, all you need to do is change the logo on the chest from the Thrasher to the Jet, and it's the exact same thing. Oh.
The description is perfect, too. A duty-driven military man, fastest member of the Guardian Air Force.
And it says twin turbojet engines attached to his boots, and 2 more are located on his forearms that slide forward over his hands when deployed.
Tell me that doesn't turn into the Jet. Just tell me it doesn't. It's true.
That's super funny. Oh my god, that's awesome. The NHL knew they were going to switch back in January of 2011.
The Stadium Series and the NHL Guardian project, things that are blatant money grabs and probably shouldn't exist, but they do.
Yeah.
Well, alright then. Jacob Bourne, Tony Pomposelli.
Yes.
We've spent so much time talking about rivals in the Stadium Series, but I just want to know, what do you think makes a rival?
I think there are 3 criteria that has to be met in order for you to have a rivalry with a team.
Okay, I want to hear this because I kind of have 3 points as well. I want to see how yours and I line up.
The first one is you have to be competitive with each other down the stretch, meaning March and April and into the playoffs. So you kind of have to be fighting for a playoff spot together. I think that's one thing that makes a rivalry.
Okay.
2, you have to have proximity to one another, meaning that you have to be within either A, the same division, or B, within traveling distance so that way fans can travel fairly well. And then 3, you have to be good. If you're both in the basement, nobody's gonna care. But if you're both at the top of the division fighting it out, you're gonna build a rivalry. And I think with those 3 criteria, you can pretty much sum up 90% of any NHL rivalry.
Very interesting, because mine kind of fall into the same lines, more or less. We kind of diverge a little on the third point. Because to me, what makes a rival? Geographical proximity. You gotta be close. Granted, there are going to be those out-of-state, out-of-division games that you view as tough rivalry, but let's be honest. They're not. Right. Like, the Ducks and Wings think they have something going on. And yes, we don't like the Wings. We haven't liked the Wings because they've had our number in the postseason for years. That being said, they don't view us as rivals. Mm-hmm. And I know this on authority because I was friends with a lot of Red Wings fans when I was in Phoenix. Closeness of games in the past is something that also kind of pulls up to me as well. And that kind of is a little bit of a tangent with yours because it does take into account results of games and their criticalness, so to speak.
Yeah.
So it's a little tangential, but it's in the same vein at least. And then the third one for me is just how much you really don't like the other guy or his team. Or a guy on the other guy's team.
Okay.
Like, the thing is if I follow a lot of Ducks fans on Twitter. No secret about that. I follow a lot of members of the group that they call themselves the Ducks Fam. There are a lot of people that don't like Dustin Brown or Jarrett Stahl or Shane Doan. They don't like him very much. And, like, those are some of the things that, like, really fuel the rivalry. You know, not to mention that the I-5 only separates us by not very much. And, frankly, we don't like a lot of the Kings fans because, to them, they perceive them as, you know, just not as good as us.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're always going to have this, how long did it take for you guys to get your first cup? You got your first cup, and you didn't even get it with Gretzky? You know, that's always a traditional complaining point between the two teams.
Uh-huh.
And it's like, they didn't get their cup without Gretzky. Yeah, but you wouldn't have existed without Disney and without Gretzky either. And it's like this whole complaining contest, and, like, I get rivalries, but it's like when people start getting downright nasty to each other, which unfortunately some of the better rivalries have that going for them, but then I'm not a big fan of it because it's like rivalries are designed to be not about liking the other guy, but I also don't see where rivalries have to exclude chirping at people. You know, the well chirped, the good solid jabs in there, not like the straight up fist fights that result sometimes at these games.
Yeah.
In the stands, not on the ice.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, I guess I'm really showing my true colors because I have 3 things written down. It's called passion, blood, and heartbreak.
Okay.
Okay.
I like that a lot.
do too. It works very well.
Yeah.
There has to be some bloodshed and there has to be some heartbreak. And preferably, it would happen annually, if not bi-monthly.
And on the other team, not yours.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't really work if it's not on both sides. I'll give you an example. So I'm a Yankees fan, and up until 2004, when the Red Sox did that thing they tell me that they did.
Refusal of acknowledgement.
There wasn't much of a rivalry. And it's not the same if both teams aren't winning. It's not the same if both teams aren't suffering heartbreak. It's not the same if both teams aren't shedding blood. It's not the same if it's one-sided. And while the Red Sox games were still always my favorite games to watch, even more so than the Mets games, it was sort of a joke. But since that thing that supposedly happened occurred, now it is a rivalry. The Red Sox have won, I mean, they tell me that they've won 2 World Series in the last about 10 years. Yankees have only won 1. It's even again. And that's why now, to me, it's a true rivalry.
I think that goes back to having to be good. Because, like you said, if one team is always pounding the other, then there's just that separation.
You know what? It's not even pounding. You know, in 2003, the Yankees and Red Sox played the 7 games, and then Aaron Boone played hero. That game could have gone in either direction, quite honestly.
Yeah, but then that also could have, they played that 7-game series, but they were both in the playoffs though. That's what I'm saying. That both of them were good.
You're okay.
Yeah, I'm talking like, cause the example I'm going to use is Blues Blackhawks right after the lockout.
Oh man, and that's still a good rivalry to this day.
I know, but I mean, think about it. You had the St. Patrick's Day Massacre back in the 90s when we were always just beating each other up in the Old Norse division, trying to get in the playoffs. And then in the 2000s, I don't remember too well, but I know that the Blues were always up at the top of the Central and were always in the playoffs. And the Blackhawks, I don't remember if they were or not. Coming out of the lockout, both of us were in the cellar, and so there just wasn't a lot there. It's like, oh, hey, the Blackhawks are in town. Cool. I remember that we used to beat each other up, but there wasn't a let's beat each other up now. It's not until this recent resurgence with Patrick Kane and Johnny Taze and Backus and Oshie and all those guys where the rivalry is really starting to pick back up again and start to get back to those old North Division roots.
All right, boys. So how about this curveball? How has fantasy hockey impacted your rivalry? Or created a rivalry? Or nullified a rivalry? I will tell you right now that up until this particular hockey season with realignment, I avoided Flyers, Devils, Islanders, and Penguins almost at all costs. Now, obviously, if I had a chance to get Brodeur or Crosby or any similar elk player, I'm not passing them up, but I did usually try to trade them for a King's ransom. And the same thing goes on in baseball. I try not to have Red Sox, Orioles, Blue Jays, or Rays. Same thing in football. I try not to have Eagles, Cowboys, or Redskins. It's a conflict of interest. Mm-hmm. And I sometimes try and take that to the next step where when it comes to playoff fantasy season, I don't want anybody on the teams that remain on the Rangers, Yankees, or Giants schedule. Now that's a lot of limiting yourself, I understand. It usually doesn't work out. I usually have to take on a Andre Fleury or a Tony Romo or whomever because ultimately I want to win. But I've also become that much more familiar with the intra-division teams as well as now Western Conference teams because that's usually the safe zone. They don't affect the Rangers, Yankees, or Giants in any particular way. It's also softens my so-called rivalry because now I have a better understanding of their roster construction. I can maybe pick up a good depth player. Or, you know what? It's the Penguins. Yeah, give me Marc-Andre Fleury's 40 wins. Let's do it. The last example, and you guys have the most experience with this, is Matt Moulson. You guys know I'm always banging the Matt Moulson drum. I've drafted him every year if I didn't keep him as a keeper. And this is the second season in a row where I've also traded him. You know, it's familiarity.
I think that's actually a really interesting question because it's something that I think about a little bit during the draft of my fantasy teams, but then don't really do much after that. But looking at my team, I have Yaroslav Halak, who's Blues goaltender, and then Jaden Schwartz on the Blues. But then other than that, I only have 2 Central Division players, and that's Andre Benoit and Ryan O'Reilly of Colorado. And they're kind of one of those Central Division teams where it's like, oh, hey, it's nice that we beat them because, hey, guess what? We traded you Eric Johnson and we won the trade. Woohoo, look at us. We're better than you. But
Shattenkirk.
It's now that you mention it, I really look like that. I've actually very much stayed away from drafting players who are big rivals of
of the
Blues. Like, the only time I ever had a Blackhawk on my team is when I picked up Johnny Oduya for an extra skater at last week's end. Or, I think that's it. I have no Red Wings. I have no Blackhawks. I have no Minnesota players, although I did have Cal Clutterbuck last season because he was my boy. I love Cal Clutterbuck.
Mm-hmm. I love my nickname I have for him. Pretty sure it's pretty common.
Yeah. It's just, I think that it's a subconscious thing that I don't draft any of my rivals' players. And like, let's say, for instance, I have Ben Bishop, who was a St. Louis goalie. And whenever the Blues play the Lightning this season, I'm starting Yaroslav Halak, so I don't have to cheer for the Lightning to get a win. Mm-hmm. So I think it's definitely that your own fandom takes over your fantasy team and you kind of stay away from those teams that you don't necessarily like and gear more towards the teams you like, or teams, like you said, Matt, that don't play your team very much.
That being said, I have Jonathan Taves and Brent Seabrook and Gabriel Landeskog all on the block.
Yeah, exactly.
I also have a Jason Pominville and a Jamie Benn, if you're interested.
I don't know. We'll have to talk about that later.
All right. Tony, what say you, my friend?
Now, see, what's kind of interesting for me is that when I build my team, I've generally had a philosophy of don't stack too much into one team. Because if the team goes on a slide, you're likely going to get more screwed if you have 3 or 4 players from that same roster than if you, say, only have 1 on your roster. When it comes to team loyalties, I think you could best describe me almost in a way as a little bit of a mercenary. Because I go where the numbers are.
As most people do.
But the thing is I don't overtly go out of my way to schedule and grab players that are playing up against my teams and what have you. I mean, for instance, I'm a Ducks fan. How many Ducks do I have on my roster? None. How many Kings do I have on my roster? 1. Because Carter has the numbers. And at the time, well, now I'm not going to lie, I'm regretting kind of not having some of the Ducks on my roster, but a lot of the quality ones were not really eligible to get picked up this season, you know, held on to as keepers and what have you. That being said, if a roster is an indication of the teams that one person likes, then, man, is my roster one weird grab bag of teams, let me tell you.
You make those sense. Winnipeg, Tampa Bay, New Jersey. You only like expansion teams.
Philadelphia, Chicago, St. Louis. The thing is that you look at these teams and they all share a very common theme, outside of the lone exclusion of a couple players. They are involved in heavily competitive teams where they get optimal settings for them to succeed. Very few players fit that mold very few players do not fit that mold on my team. When you're icing in guys like Sedin, Sharp, Carter, Backus, Hartnell, Seabrook, Cronwall, those are guys that are all in prime positions to be on good teams and to succeed in more than just the fantasy aspect of the game, but the real aspect of the game. They produce numbers, which by logic means that they will produce for you. Unless you're Daniel Sedin, in which you haven't done anything for the last 2 weeks. So, I mean, I guess in terms of team loyalty, like my fantasy teams, I do take a little bit more of a mercenary respect to it, because I will go in and I will dip into teams that have players that, like, I will dip into teams that I'm not big fans of. But I will take players from them if they will put numbers up for me.
Okay.
I can respect that.
I respect that as well.
It's definitely different than many people. I mean, yes, I will have a couple of my favorites on the team, and every once in a while, like with David Backus, they will pay off really big.
All right. I don't know how to transition from that into the Olympics, so we're just going to start talking about it. Boys!
Well, I mean...
You mean what?
Oh, I was going to say, I mean, speaking of Backus, he's actually one of the players of mine that I have a little bit of a concern with because he is an Olympian.
Yeah, there are 10 Blues, 7 Ducks, and 7 Rangers headed to the Olympics as of January 24th.
Yes. As of right now on my roster, I actually have 9 Olympians.
Jeez.
Yeah. It was 10, but I dropped Marion Gaborik earlier this week because Jimmy Howard went on IR.
Either that or poor planning.
I think I only have 4 or 5. Yeah, I think I only have 4 and 5 on my team.
Yeah, I got 9. I got 2 for Sweden and City and Cronwall, 3 for Canada, Seabrook, Sharp, and Carter, Backus and Howard for the US of A, Zuccarello for Norway, and Gudas for the Czech Republic.
There you go. I've got Perry, Pavelski, Fowler, and then Halak, and I believe Evander Kane is on the team, but I'm not entirely sure.
Nope.
Okay, so then I only got 4. I think. I don't know. I'll have to look closely.
That's not bad.
No, it's not.
Oh, since we're talking about it, I've got Taves, Ben, Callahan, Landeskog, Subban, Edler, Carter, Gaborik, Quick, and Niemi.
Jesus.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's just going to be interesting to see how not only Olympic time affects them when they come back in the NHL, but how that affects them after in fantasy hockey.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm personally very pleased about the number of guys that Anaheim is sending to the Olympics. We're sending 7 of them. We're sending Teemu and Sami Vatanen to Finland. Perrien gets to Canada, Silfverberg for Sweden, Hiller for Switzerland, and Fowler for the U.S. And those are a lot of guys who are depth players and big guns. And I know it's a lot of our big guns out there for sure, but these are all guys who can also keep it up coming back from Sochi. And our big guns for Anaheim are not the only ones who have been killing it. And it's a big reason why we're one of the best teams in the NHL right now.
Yes, it is.
Yep.
So the fact that we have more depth to spread around, it makes me feel pretty good about Anaheim coming out of the Olympic break. We could have had an 8th Olympian, Saku Koivu, but he said, you know what, I want to take the time off to rest. So that being said, when you're only sending 7 guys out of a 20-man roster, that's not as scary as when you're sending 9 guys out of a 15-guy roster. You send over half the team. More than a couple of those guys burn up their fuel in Sochi. We crumble in a race where a couple of losses, we could be out of the playoff picture in a really big hurry.
Yeah. I mean, the Blues we've got 10 guys over in Sochi. We got Backus, Oshie, and Shattenkirk over for USA. Bouwmeester and Pietrangelo in Canada. Sobotka is Czech Republic. Berglund and Steen is playing for Sweden. And then Halak is Slovakia, and Tarasenko is Russia. And we could also have Polak playing for the Czech Republic. So I am very, very cautiously optimistic about what's going to happen out after the Olympic Games. I'd love to see one of our boys win the gold, which would be nice, but I'd much rather win a cup than have 2 or 3 players win a medal in the Olympics.
Sure.
Well, I think therein lies part of the difference between the fans' point of view, the team, the organization's point of view, and then the players' point of view.
Yeah.
The players quite literally want to be part of every highest possible level competition and be in contention to win every possible award, team or personal or otherwise, if they possibly can. And the Rangers are sending Nash to Canada, Lundqvist and Hagelin to Sweden, Zuccarello to Norway, and Callahan, McDonough, and Stepan to the United States. That's 7 guys. That's a lot. And that's a lot for a team that is struggling. Now, I mean, I guess the last 2 or 3 weeks they haven't quite been struggling, but overall in the season it's been a floundering season. And my ICHL team has been, despite scoring the second most points in the league, is 1 week over 500. And I just don't know what to make of it because you're pulled in equal proportions in both directions. I'm so happy for all of these guys that they get to go play what could be the final NHL Olympics. And in fact, I'm so happy for them in general that they get to do it at all.
I mean, getting to represent your country at the highest levels of competition is something that many athletes dream to do. They dream to be the very best. And when you get to represent your country, you can be that. And if you're a part of a country who necessarily doesn't have the Olympic history of success, perhaps, I mean, they can pretty much be the very best, like no one ever was before them.
Well, Jake, talk a little bit more to Tony's point about how the Blues have a lot of depth. Well, it's not just the top line getting it done. It is a full team effort, and how that affects your expectations and your fears or confidence in any particular way.
Well, I think the biggest I want to know how to phrase this. The biggest worry I have is the wheels falling off down the stretch.
Oh yeah.
If that makes sense. Because
of course.
The Blues are definitely like you said, a depth team. And that's good because it means that it's not just one person getting all the production, everybody chipping in. So if one player goes down, another player can step up, and that's good. My problem is that I look at guys like Tarasenko and what he did last season. Because last season, he played in 3/4 of the KHL season before he even stepped foot on North America to play in the NHL. And then he played all the NHL season plus the playoffs, excluding the time he spent out with concussions. And it just looked, by the time that first round series in LA came, he was just done. He was gassed and he just needed rest. And that's when he played about 90, 95 games over the season. Well,
and that's before the playoffs.
Exactly.
That's 95 games.
That's before the playoffs. And if you think about it, a team is can play a maximum of 28 games on top of the 82. So that's 110 games. Not including what happens in the Olympics, which is another possible of 12 games, I think, or something like that.
How many times do they play each other in pool?
No. It's up to 7 games in 12 days.
That's what it is. 7 games in 12 days. So that's a potential of 117 games that 10 of our 20-man roster can play. And exactly. It's just
that's scary.
The sheer amount of numbers that happens.
Well, it wouldn't be 10. It would just happen to be the players who happen to make it to the gold medal game.
Right.
Still have a roster.
Right.
Well, no, it doesn't necessarily. It's not spread even across all the Olympic teams.
Right.
Okay, that's fair. I didn't think of it that way.
Let's look at this. David Backes, TJ Oshie, and Kevin Shattenkirk are all on USA. Mm-hmm. They have a potential to win gold. Now, to play in an extra medal game, meaning they could play in a medal round for gold, silver, or bronze.
Mm-hmm. Then
you have Jay Bouwmeester and Alex Pietrangelo, our number 1 D pair, who could potentially win a gold medal.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have Patrick Berglund and Alex Steen. Alex Steen's our number 1 goal scorer, and then Patrick Berglund is our third line center who hasn't been doing particularly well, but he's one of those depth guys that can chip in 25, 30 points in a season.
Right.
They're in Sweden, and then you have Vladimir Tarasenko who's going to play first line minutes on Russia.
Right.
And all 4 of those have a legitimate shot at playing in the gold or bronze medal games.
Right.
So, and that right there is 7 out of our 10 players.
Oh, wow.
No, 8. 8 out of our 10 players. So that's the other thing. It's like, it's not like we've got guys like, no offense to you, Matt, going to Norway or going to Slovenia who aren't necessarily going to make a gold medal or aren't expected to make that extra medal round games. But
and that's a really interesting point. Because while we are sending while we're sending guys to the Olympics, it's not an equal playing field in terms of the expectations. And so sending Zuccarello as a Rangers fan, or as Tony has him in the ICHL West, you don't want to see the extra strain. However, he's probably only going to play 4 games. And so it's a completely different expectation than our North American or Swedish teammate players, whether it be on our ISHL or NHL team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's just at least for me, it's like that's my one biggest concern is that we've got a legitimate shot of sending a bunch of players into the depth of the Olympics, and then what if they come back and then if they get, or if worse comes to worse, somebody gets injured there. Like,
don't say those words. Injured in Olympics. No.
That's the other thing. Is you never want to hear that, and you just, I'm conflicted because I'm very excited to see all those guys being on good Olympic teams and having a legitimate shot at winning a medal and potentially gold. That's awesome. But at the same time, it sucks that what could possibly be our best year to win a cup is also the year that the Olympics happen. And that it's so easy for something to go wrong, and then from there it could just snowball and the wheels fall off, and then we're looking at another first round, second round exit at the hands of the Hawks, which would be the absolute worst case scenario in my point. Or
it wouldn't be Steve Yzerman again?
No, it would be worse than that because the amount of Blackhawk fans that I live near/with would literally eat me alive. They would never ever let me live it down that the Blues lost in the playoffs to them. It would be awful.
Well, here's hoping for your safety.
Yeah. Here's hoping it just doesn't happen.
Tony, what do you have to say about all this?
Well, I mean, kind of going back a little bit to sending the big guns on teams that have feasible chances to make it to medal rounds. I mean, it's kind of the same thing with the Ducks. I mean, we have Teemu and Sami Bothmann. They're Finland. You have Perry gets to Canada. And then you also have Fowler for the U.S. You know, those are guys that all have chances to really advance deep. And the same thing kind of goes for my ISHL roster. I'm sending 2 from Sweden, 3 from Canada, and 2 from the USA. All it takes is for those guys to fall apart, and things go very bad, and especially when it comes to when you look at the Ducks, so to speak. If we have Perry and Getz go to Canada, get a gold medal, and then they fall apart, it's going to be really hard to live it down because right now we are on pace for a President's Trophy. Now, given the President's Trophy curse that's floating around, I don't know do we want that? I don't know.
I can only finish my portion of this like this. In either 2006 or 2007, when the Rangers were eliminated, it was 2006, so that was also the lockout year. The Rangers were eliminated in the playoffs by the Devils, and Jágr in the second or third period separated his shoulder on an idiotic retribution attack on Scott Gomez. The Rangers sent somewhere between 8 and 12 guys to the Olympics that year. I think it was actually 12. And there was a noticeable difference between the way that they were playing before and after the Olympics. They were no match for the Devils when it came to the playoffs. I think it was a 5-game series. I got to watch the 5th game in elimination. I've yet to see the Rangers win a playoff game live and in person. You know, it's a real concern, especially when you're sending that many. There are some teams, like the Sharks, who are only sending 4 or 5. 4 or 5 is astronomically fewer compared to 7 and 10. And there's just no way around it, even with today's better medication, nutrition, overall biological knowledge, and the doctors who are there to both dispense it and the players who are there to execute it.
Sure.
You can't get around the fact that you're literally on the other side of the planet. So this is a real concern. And any of those teams, like the Sharks and others who are sending only a handful of guys, who are still quality teams, those guys are sitting in the hot seat. They're sitting in the front seat, be able to make a late season surge and carry that on into the playoffs and dash the hopes of the Ducks and the Blues in particular, who have had phenomenally consistent and excellent seasons thus far. It's a real concern.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope, not at the Rangers' expense, but I hope that that's not what we see. I hope what we see are players who are able to recover sufficiently so that they can maintain their quality of play throughout the end of the season and into the playoffs. But I don't think that's what's going to happen.
I hope if one of those, either U.S. or Canada or Sweden or Russia, one of those 4, I really just hope the Olympics kind of revitalizes everybody. and it gives them a break from the monotony of the NHL season. And then they go through the Olympics, and then they kind of build, not necessarily fire in them, but then they're like, all right, the Olympics are gone. Kind of like almost like what happens after spring break in school. You hit spring break, and then after you come back, you're like, all right, it's the final stretch. Let's get this done.
Yeah, let's kill it.
Let's kill it. And then it's kind of like the spring break for the NHL season, if you will, because then they come back, they've got March, April playoffs. And so it's just kind of like players get tunnel vision and they just see the final stretch, and that's just all they focus on is getting to the end and getting into the playoffs. So I want to give a shout out to Ryan Bothmann because he gave us our first question of the Born to Puck podcast. He asked us, what do we think are the top 5 lines in the Olympics are going to be?
Well, it's pretty tough to project the lines exactly, but I'll give you 2 that I'm really looking forward to.
All right.
I'm really looking forward to, actually I got 3. So there's 2 on Canada. I'm really looking forward to seeing what the Crosby line looks like. We presume it's going to be with Kunitz.
Yeah. My projection for that line is Kunitz, Crosby, and Stamkos.
Oh, no. Yeah. Wait. How? Yeah. I had a little bit of a moment there. I'm like, wait, what? And it's like, oh, that can happen. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I'm also really looking forward to see who plays with Getzlaf and Perry.
I think that one is Getzlaf, Perry, and Nash, I think, but I'm not entirely sure.
God. Imagine if it's Nash or Jamie Benn. Oh my gosh. But in a similar vein to them, I'm really looking forward to seeing who the Sedins play with. Could you imagine finally a quality third Sedin?
Yeah. You want to know who the third Sedin's going to be?
Tell me.
Alexander Steen.
Man.
That's a great line.
That's a possibility.
Man, oh man.
Or do you see them rolling Alfie, Daniel Alfredson?
No, not up there. He's too old. He's not going to be able to keep up with them.
I could see it for a mercenary shift or 2. But I think that it's more likely to be Steen.
Yeah, I think it's most likely to be Sedin, but don't sleep on Silverberg either.
Maybe.
Silv's got the speed.
That's true. He does have speed.
He's got the speed.
Okay.
Ooh,
you know what? I look forward to it. I just feel bad for the broadcasters that might have to go Sedin, to Steen, back to Sedin. So
that'll be entertaining to listen to.
Yeah. So
very entertaining.
I've got my 5. Matt, you actually touched on a couple of them. It's the Kunitz, Crosby, Stamkos line, and then Sedin, and Steen line. One of my lines is the third line for Canada. It's supposed to be Johnny Tavares, Johnny Taze, and Patrick Sharp.
Oh my god. Doing Sharp is a third liner is so scary.
That is going to be unreal because I love Tavares with Taze and Sharp. That's just going to be a brutal line. Another line is Zach Parise, Joe Pavelski, and Patty Kane, which is going to be the scoring line for USA. I feel like they could do some good stuff with that.
They just sound like the B-roll to the lines that we just spouted out.
I know. Unfortunately, it does. But the number 1 line, I think, which could be arguably the best line in the entire Olympics, is Russia's first line with Ilya Kovalchuk, Pavel Datsyuk, and Vladimir Tarasenko.
That is terrifying.
That is just an absolutely filthy line. I would hate to try to defend them because I have a feeling it's one of those like this.
How do you?
That's almost essentially the 64, 68, 72, and 76 Russians. They know they're better than you, and they know it.
All right, boys. So I have an interesting concept for you. We're not going to see this in real life, but when the video game comes out, we probably will.
Oh God.
Okay, so imagine this. We'll stick with Russia. Imagine, if you will, Pavel Datsyuk in between Alexander Ovechkin. Vladimir Tarasenko, with Ilya Kovalchuk and Andrei Markov at the points. How would you like to defend that power play unit?
Run as fast as you can.
I'd actually almost put OV on D and have Covey on the left wing.
A, I don't think it matters a whole lot.
I don't think so either.
and B, the reason why I did it the way that I did is because, I got to watch a lot of Kovalchuk when he was here in the New York area over in New Jersey.
Yeah.
That was a weird way of putting it. In any event, he's a much smarter skater than Ovechkin is, just in terms of defensive positioning.
Yeah.
And understanding when he should probably pull up by the top of the circle instead of trying to pinch and keep the puck in. In any event, here's the Canadian version. How would you boys like to defend a line centered by Crosby, winged by Tavares and Taves, with Patrick Sharp and, I don't know, name a fifth person. Anybody. I don't know, maybe Shea Weber on the blue line?
Oh. Man, I would just say, I just go up to the ref and just tell him, no, just give him the goal. Just give it to him. Let's just play 5-on-5 and let's keep going.
Yeah.
We concede.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Pull a Goldberg. The goaltender pull a Goldberg and just hide behind the back of the net and just give him the open net.
Just give him the goal. I'm in the trapezoid. Just take the goal.
Yeah, exactly.
Just take the goal.
No, it's fine. It's yours. Let's just keep playing.
One of the lines, and I'm actually looking at this on a Bleacher Report article. I'm not sure where you guys are getting your line reports from and what have you. One of the wings that actually kind of is sounding an interesting one to me that's a projected potential line. Imagine a physicality of a line with Getzlaf, Perry, and Ben.
Yeah.
Because that is a playmaking line that is also just as adept at punching you in the face with their physical style of play.
That's the kind of two-way hockey line I wish the U.S. had.
They kind of do, right, buddy? Did you see what David Backes did to Chris Kreider last night with the butt end of his fucking stick?
I did not. But I'm sure I can pull up. I'm going to
rub you out behind the boards, even though you've already stopped playing the puck 10 strides ago. And here's a present for you, sir. The butt end of my stick to your jaw.
Ouch. Well, sorry about that, eh?
Yeah, are you?
Yeah, a little bit. Not really, though.
Sorry about
it. So, yeah. I think we'll see those lines when the video game comes out, but I don't know that we'll see that in real life, which is a shame because wouldn't it be just that much more special of an event if those guys could figure out a way to play together with a one-man advantage? Or even we might see it, we might see something like that if Canada or Russia are down late and they have a two-man advantage. And they obviously need to score the goal.
Right.
We might see a balls to the walls type of attack, but man.
But I wonder how much like Dan Ballsma he just names off 5 skaters and just say, all right, just go out there and figure it out for yourselves. You guys know what to do. Like, he doesn't even coach. He just says, go out there and he goes, okay, first 5 people off the bench, you're going to be our power play line. And then everybody just tries to like hop over or something like that.
Yeah, guys, we have one glaring omission from the Russian 5 that we just ogled over.
Yeah.
Instead of Tarasenko, what about Yevgeny Malkin?
Oh
man.
Oh gosh.
I'm sorry, Malkin. Don't try to kill us.
Shaibu. Yeah.
In Soviet Russia, Malkin scores you.
Well, actually, I don't think that's true. There's kind of a point why he left.
That's true.
That's just, man. Totally forgot.
Oh my gosh. How do you slip? I'm not even the one who mentioned that. How do you slip over Malkin?
'Cause I'm a Rangers fan and and sometimes, you can only stand so much pain in your butt.
Oh my gosh. That is just terrifying.
Don't give context. Let's leave it like that. Yeah.
Oh dear. Oh my.
Yeah. Woo.
Oh man.
All right. So, you guys, I don't know if you've noticed, but before the internet, social commentary was really boring and hard to come by. Like, you'd have to turn on the TV and maybe catch the right show and then understand it. Same thing when it came to a book. Do you guys remember books? We have to use these things called libraries. There'd be books everywhere, and like, you had to know the Dewey Decimal System. And then, God forbid, a movie should come out. Now, with the internet and Twitter, social commentary is commonplace and everywhere and hilarious sometimes. And I think the Dallas Stars can start us off on that trend. What about you, Jake?
I definitely think the Dallas Stars have, we'll just say, they kind of started the trolling trend of the NHL along with the Kings. Because I remember back when the NHL came back from the lockout in 2011. Granted, 2012, right at the very beginning of 2012. And the Dallas Cowboys Twitter said, in other related news, the NHL is back. In the other news of nobody cares, the NHL is back. And they retweeted somebody saying something about the Mavs or the Cowboys or something like that. And the Dallas Stars put in parentheses, at least our number 9 got the job done, and then retweeted the Cowboys, and it had a photo of Mike Badano with
Oh, Mikey Mo. I gotta get a North Stars version.
It was just a beautiful, just like, punch in the gut, sort of trolling the Cowboys. And then, if you don't know, and this is going to be kind of like the hockey bird, this is the only time we're going to mention this on this entire podcast. Justin Bieber got a DUI the other day. And what happens? Oh, Toronto is playing in Dallas. So, on the Jumbotron, they just put a photo of Justin Bieber's mugshot on the photo, and then under it putting like number 1 Leafs fan or something like that.
It was Maple Leafs fan underneath it. It was the biggest, like, that
was great. And then they also had, I think they did video clips or photos of Rob Ford, the Toronto mayor, on there at the same, like, later in the game. And it was just beautiful to see how well the Stars were trolling the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I love the tongue-in-cheek humor that not a lot of, but some NHL teams are really embracing on Twitter.
Sure. It's definitely been really fun. Like, when I saw that last night, the clip of the Bieber and the Maple Leafs fan next to it, I was laughing so hard I basically had tears streaming down my face. That was one of the funniest things I've seen. And it was such a good low blow, too. It was just, it was stuff of glory. A lot of teams have really stepped up their social media game since they've realized how big of a deal it is in the modern mediascape. I mean, you want to look at one that had a really good acerbic sense of humor? Let's talk about the Canucks about a week ago when they got handed just everything to them on a silver platter when they played against the Ducks and had a 9-1 drubbing. I mean, if it's a game, can we call that a game? Because I don't think we can.
I mean, they played a full 60 minutes, but other than that, that was the only definition.
Did they even play the full 60 minutes?
I believe Giordano did.
I was talking about the Canucks Ducks.
Oh, well, I believe Giordano is still skating.
Giordano probably still skating, But I mean, did they even play the full 60 minutes? There are pictures that are circulating online that are Frederik Andersen, who was in net that night, just kind of hanging out in the crease like nothing's wrong. Like, what's up, guys? Like, hey, the game's over here too, isn't it? Right? I have to play, right? Can I go grab some nachos? Like, seriously? I mean, he just looked so bored, but it was so funny because it's just like nothing going on. And then with the Canucks Flames games, I loved the sense of humor that was coming away from some of the people who were actually following the game. Like, for instance, one of my favorite ones came from one of the hockey bloggers. I think it was Prototype that said it after Tortorella attempted to rush in after the Calgary players. And they said, this just in, somehow, miraculously, John Tortorella just named the third star in Philadelphia. I mean, they're so good. They really are able to just put it down. And I mean, and again, I just saw the picture with Rob Ford in Toronto. It's like, oh my gosh. Teams that pick up their social media game are really awesome. I know another one that a lot of people give credits to are the Kings. They often have them partnering with the Royal Half and some other assorted people. It's cool, but the thing is they've had some people on there that rub me the wrong way. Like, one of them actually made they made a kind of crass joke about a penalty that was basically called. It was basically insinuating that a player was sexually offended and not called for a penalty on it. And, like, that kind of rubbed me the wrong way with that. And, I mean, I'd like to give the Kings credit for being on top of their game, but let's be honest, I'm a Ducks fan. I don't like giving the Kings credit for anything.
Well, the difference with that is that was a guest tweeter for the team.
Yes.
It wasn't normally what they tweet. So that's the other stipulation that I don't think a lot of people know, is that it wasn't the actual, I mean, it was on the Kings Twitter, but it wasn't the normal guy who runs a Twitter. It was somebody different. So I definitely commend them for nipping that in the butt right away and basically saying, we're sorry, we didn't mean to do that, and it's not going to happen again. So, but yeah, I get what you're saying.
One of my favorite tweets that I've ever seen, which instantly gave me, like, the Kings, like, I'm like, okay, Kings guy, I like you. They had, for a time, it was like, okay, guys, it's second intermission. You ask us the questions, we'll give you the answers. And someone asked, how do I know if she's the one? Their response, if
she's a Kings fan?
No, if you hurl and she stays, you're good. But if she bolts, it was never meant to be. A straight Wayne's World reference, which is my favorite movie of all time, and I'm like, you guys win.
Wait, that's a Wayne's World reference?
Yeah. If you
wait, no. I've had experience. I've had this exact experience, except the other way around. Before I started dating one of my college girlfriends, we went to a party and she got blitzed. I didn't get as drunk. And then like 1 or 2 o'clock, we were going to go walk back to our dorm, and she said, I'm going to puke. And I followed her into the bathroom so I could hold her, I could hold her still and keep her hair out of the toilet.
Look at you being the gentleman.
And I stayed with her there for like, she was puking for like an hour, no joke. And then we both kind of fell asleep because we were both really tired. And then that was like one of the first things that she said. And I didn't get I didn't know it was a reference.
It's a Wayne's World reference because someone asked and they said, if you spew and she stays, she's good. But if you hurl and she bolts, it was never meant to be.
That's funny. That's awesome.
It was a straight Wayne's World reference. And I'm like, I love you guys. You're good.
I think the first time I ever became a fan of the Kings Twitter was when they swept the Canucks in the first round of their eventual playoff cup run. It said to the rest of Canada, you're welcome.
Welcome. Yeah. Like, well, that was best smack in the face ever. And I remember all the Kings fans were just loving it because they hate the Canucks.
Yeah, it is just,
in Los
I
Angeles.
love that. I just love that. And then from there it escalated, and it's like they're just Twitter game the entire rest of the playoffs and off season, and they just kind of made the mold of that snarky NHL Twitter, and I love it. And I love the bromance between the LA Kings Twitter and the Blue Jackets Twitter.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna mention that.
That's very interesting.
It's like
you are our favorite Central Division team. Don't tell the other teams. We don't want things to get weird. From the LA Kings to the Blue Jackets Twitter.
Yep. It's so good. It's just so great watching these teams when they really get into it. And it's actually kind of funny. I don't know the guy personally, but a person that I went to college with, a friend of mine, actually knows the Twitter guy from the Kings.
That's shit, cool. Man. We gotta get him on our show. Like, all of us together.
That would be so cool.
It's been such a long time since I've talked to them, though. I don't know how feasible that would be.
Oh,
More importantly, how feasible it would be if he knew a Ducks fan was on the show. He would be able to easily beat me at every turn. I mean, if he can come up with that stuff during the game, if you put him on a podcast, oh man, that's like putting me out in the middle of a paintball field without any protective gear and just go for it, because I'm not exactly a small target.
You're like the wounded gazelle in the middle of the Sahara, and you're surrounded by a bunch of lions.
I'm the wounded gazelle. I'm the 6'2", 300-pound wounded gazelle in the middle of a paintball field with the kings just manning the guns.
Aw, Tony. I mean, at least you're good for snuggling.
It would just be, it would be just, it would, I mean, they're so on point and so quick with their stuff, I wouldn't even be able to respond to them. They're good. I will give them that. They are damn good at what they do.
Yeah. Tony.
Yes.
Listen, we're all built differently, and that's okay.
I don't care. I've always been big. I'm fine with it.
It just means that we have different strengths and weaknesses. One of your strengths is that you are the ultimate cuddle bug. And there isn't a human alive that should ever be alive that doesn't enjoy cuddling.
Oh, Lord. Why is this eerily similar to something my friend said to me the other day? It wasn't you either. That was the weird part.
Oh, man. I don't know where to go from there, but Tony...
I don't think we can go anywhere from there.
Yeah, I think it's just time to close it out now.
Before it gets really crazy.
All right. Sounds good. We'll have to mix that into the intro one day.
What? I don't know where to go from that?
No, I'll be talking about cuddling, and you'll just have the, oh, Lord.
Alright. Well, Tony, it was great having you on the show. Thank you so much for joining us and talking puck with us.
Hey, absolutely. Thank you guys so much for having me on. It was a real blast, honestly. It was a really, really fun time with you guys. And, hopefully, maybe there's a space for me to be on in the future, but thank you very much.
There is.
For sure.
100%. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to us for a very long time, and we appreciate it. If you would like to talk to us further, however, if you would be so kind, you can reach us at borntopuck@gmail.com. You can reach me at Matt Riegler on Twitter, MatTriegler, Jacob_born on Twitter, and Tony Pomposelli. Where would you like them to reach you on Twitter, my good friend?
Well, in terms of if they're looking to me for more Ice HL-related content, they can find me at Sask Snipers, SASKSNIPERS. And for my other account, which tweets hockey, but also a bunch of my other hobbies, including gaming and such like that, they can find me at T_Pomps, POMPS.
And if you would like to reach Jacob and I about our Ice HL teams that we talk so glowingly about, you can reach me at Matty Mammoths. And Jake, where can we find you?
You can find me at Olympiques MTL, LLYMPIQUES MTL.
That is a mouthful. I don't know if I'd be able to spell that right on the first try.
After looking at it for so long, you kind of get used to it.
That's true.
Just like your face. Oh!
Aww.